vitamin B2, B3, B6, B9, B12, vitamin E, zinc, phosphorus, magnesium, iron, copper, potassium, and selenium. Hit me, Producer Potts.
Dr. Sarah, what is a Nutrivore foundational food?
A Nutrivore foundational food is a group of foods that is nutritionally distinct. By that, I mean a food family, so a more granular way to group foods than the food groups you're probably used to, that has something special to offer us nutritionally, and that has a huge body of scientific literature showing that when we eat those foods regularly, we reduce risk of long-term health problems because of the nutrients those foods contain. So instead of the usual 5 food groups that you normally think of, vegetables, fruit, protein foods, whole grains, and dairy products, I divide foods into a few dozen categories, which I term food families, groups of foods that are more closely related nutritionally. You don't have to keep track of a few dozen food families. You just need to know that 12 of them are Nutrivore foundational foods. And they earn foundational food status thanks to either a really special nutrient or their special collection of nutrients that are impossible or tough to get from other foods. So the Nutrivore foundational foods are the foods to focus on adding more of to expedite the Nutrivore goal of getting all of the nutrients our bodies need from the foods we eat.
So, Dr. Sarah, I love that you have put together these foods for us, especially for those of us that don't want to think about things, telling us what to eat. I love that. So, what are these 12 nutritionally distinct Nutrivore foundational foods?
Why don't I quickly summarize what the 12 Nutrivore foundational foods are, and then we can go into what they have that earn them foundational food status. So the Nutrivore foundational foods are vegetables in general, and then there are 5 vegetable families that are also Nutrivore foundational foods. Cruciferous vegetables, that's the cabbage family. Alliums, that's the onion family. Mushrooms, root vegetables, leafy vegetables. Then fruit in general, and there are 2 fruit families that are also Nutrivore foundational food families, citrus fruits and berries. Then pulse legumes, seafood, which includes fish and shellfish, and nuts, seeds, and peanuts. I talked about the benefits of eating lots of vegetables pretty recently. So I'll just quickly summarize the nutrients that vegetables contain that elevate them to foundational food status. They're great sources of fiber, phytonutrients, vitamin C, vitamin K, manganese, copper, potassium, magnesium, and many of the B vitamins, including vitamins B1, B5, B6, biotin, and folate. And studies show that 5 servings per day is probably optimal for getting all of the health benefits that vegetables have to offer us. A serving being defined as 1 cup measured raw and chopped. That's about the same volume as your fist, but 2 cups for leafy vegetables. And most vegetables shrink down to about half a cup once cooked. I also talked about fruit relatively recently, so I will also just quickly summarize the nutrients that fruit contains that elevate them to Nutrivore foundational food status. Like the fiber types and phytonutrients, they're complementary to the ones in vegetables. And fruit tends to be great sources of vitamin C, copper, many B vitamins, including vitamins B1, B2, B5, B6, biotin, and folate, vitamin K, manganese, magnesium, and potassium. The sweet spot for fruit consumption is 2 to 3 servings per day. And like vegetables, a serving is defined as 1 cup measured raw and chopped, and that translates to a medium-sized fruit or a fruit about the same size as your fist.
Dr. Sarah, I love that you've laid out the basics of fruit and vegetables so we can stick that in our head. So that's great. You mentioned that there were some specific vegetables that have earned foundational food status. Can you walk us through those?
Absolutely. First is the cruciferous vegetable family, also called the cabbage family. This includes a lot of common vegetables like cabbage, obviously, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, collard greens, mustard greens, arugula, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, radishes, turnips, and rutabaga. Cruciferous vegetables tend to be great sources of vitamin C, vitamin K, biotin, manganese, folate, carotenoids, and polyphenols. But the thing that cruciferous vegetables have that's special, that elevates them to Nutrivore foundational food status, is a class of phytonutrients called glucosinolates. which are particularly good at lowering our risk of cardiovascular disease and are some of the most powerful cancer preventive compounds we can get from foods. And some specific glucosinolates are also very good at lowering risk of type 2 diabetes and neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's disease. And studies show that averaging about 1 serving per day of cruciferous vegetables lowers our risk of these health problems. But that's on average, so it's okay to aim for about 7 servings per week. Same as vegetables, a serving is defined as 1 cup measured raw and chopped, but 2 cups for leafy cruciferous vegetables. Still shrinking to about a half a cup once cooked. The next veggie family that is also a Nutrivore Foundational food is Alliums, also known as the onion family. This includes onions, obviously, as well as garlic, leeks, chives, shallots, and spring onions. Alliums tend to be particularly great sources of fiber, along with having vitamin B6, vitamin C, folate, vitamin K, manganese, potassium, copper, and iron. But the special thing that alliums contain that elevate them to Nutrivore Foundational food status is a class of phytonutrients called thiosulfonates. Thiosulfonates really powerfully reduce risk of cardiovascular disease and many forms of cancer. And with alliums, even just 3 servings per week reduces our health risks. A serving for onions, shallots, or leeks is 1 cup measured raw and chopped. For chives, it's only a 1/4 cup. And for regular garlic or elephant garlic, a serving is 1 tablespoon, which translates to about 3 cloves of regular garlic or 1 clove of elephant garlic. Mushrooms have several different nutrients that help raise them up to Nutrivore Foundational food status, including some unique fiber types that we can't get easily from other foods like chitin and chitosan fiber, some cool types of phytonutrients like triterpenes, and mushrooms are by far the best food source of a really cool amino acid called ergothioneine. Ergothioneine isn't used by our bodies to make protein, but it does have lots of other biological roles and is very powerfully antioxidant. Because of that, eating more ergothioneine reduces risk of all of the health diseases associated with aging. So much so that ergothioneine has been nicknamed by scientists the longevity vitamin. And even just 3 servings per week of mushrooms gives us these health benefits. Like other vegetables, a serving is defined as 1 cup measured raw and chopped. Root vegetables tend to be great sources of vitamins B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, and B9, copper, magnesium, manganese, and phosphorus. And some of our best food sources of potassium are root vegetables, which is important because 97.8% of Americans don't get enough dietary potassium. But it's actually the uniquely beneficial fiber types in root vegetables that elevate them to foundational food status. And we include in this category both starchy root vegetables like potatoes and sweet potatoes and cassava, and non-starchy root vegetables like carrots and radishes, as well as some foods that aren't root vegetables at all, or even technically vegetables like winter squash. Root vegetables are another group of vegetables that ideally we would consume at least 1 serving of per day. On average, we could aim for like 7 servings per week. And again, a serving is defined as 1 cup measured raw and chopped, shrinking to about half a cup when cooked. And the last veggie family that earns Nutrivore Foundational food status is leafy veggies. These are our best food sources of vitamin K, which 72.4% of Americans don't get enough of from their diets. But they're also great sources of different types of fiber, so very good for supporting a healthy gut microbiome, plus folate, magnesium, manganese, carotenoids, and polyphenols. Leafy veggies are another one that ideally we would average about 1 serving per day. Or more. There's no cap on the health benefits of leafy vegetables. A serving of leafy vegetables is defined as 2 cups measured raw, which shrinks down to half a cup or even less when cooked. 2 cups of raw spinach shrinks down to like 1/3 of a cup. And we can also include fresh herbs as leafy vegetables, but a serving of fresh herbs like basil, cilantro, mint, or parsley is defined as only a 1/4 cup. So those are the 5 vegetable families that have something unique to offer us that earn them Nutrivore Foundational food status. But remember, vegetables in general are also a Nutrivore Foundational food. So all of the other vegetables still count as Nutrivore Foundational foods. They just count under general vegetables. not under cruciferous, alliums, mushrooms, root vegetables, or leafy vegetables.
I love that now we know all vegetables count, but now we know what vegetables we can focus on if we really want to like amp up our nutrient density and the health benefits. So that is so helpful to know. So with fruit, you said there's also some fruit that has earned foundational food status. What are those?
Yes, so there are two fruit families that also get Nutrivore Foundational Food status beyond just being fruit. The first is citrus fruit, thanks to being such a great source of highly bioavailable vitamin C. Citrus also has carotenoids and really beneficial fiber types, and some really cool polyphenols that increase the bioavailability of the vitamin C in the citrus fruits. We have measurable health benefit from just 3 servings of citrus per week. But studies show increased benefit up to 2 servings per day, so you can eat a lot of citrus. A serving is 1 cup measured raw and like segments if you're talking about orange segments, or a whole fruit, again, about the size of your fist. And the equivalent to fruit juice, like orange juice, is 2 ounces of juice equals about 1 serving of fruit. And then the next fruit family that earns Nutrivore Foundational Food status is berries. Berries tend to be great sources of vitamin C. Many are good sources of vitamin K. They're really good sources of manganese and fiber, including some cool fiber types like lignans. But it is their awesome polyphenol content, especially a class of polyphenols called anthocyanins, that elevate berries to Nutrivore Foundational Food status. Fun fact, anthocyanins are uniquely capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier, so they can have their anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects directly in our central nervous system. Plus, they interact with pain receptors to reduce pain sensation. And even just 2 servings per week of berries yields health benefits. Once again, a serving is defined as 1 cup measured raw.
Okay, Dr. Sarah. So we've gone over fruits and vegetables and the specific fruits and vegetables that are foundational food status, but there are some other foods that have also earned foundational food status. There's 3 of them. One of them are a big favorite of yours and mine, which are legumes. Why are legumes a Nutrivore foundational food?
Pulse type legumes like lentils, chickpeas, and all different kinds of beans that you can get dried or in a can, like black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, navy beans, lima beans, soybeans, cranberry beans, and fava beans, and adzuki beans, and anasazi beans. Pulse type legumes are our most nutrient dense starchy foods on average. They are extremely dense sources of fiber, tend to have really impressive amounts of protein. Plus, they're great sources of vitamin B1, B2, B6, biotin, folate, copper, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, selenium, and zinc, along with being really concentrated sources of polyphenols. A great minimum target is 4 servings per week. But we continue to get health benefit from pulse-type legumes up to about 1.5 servings per day. A serving is defined as half a cup cooked, which translates to 1 ounce or about 1/5 of a cup for the dried raw version.
Okay, on to the next Nutrivore foundational food, seafood.
The thing that elevates seafood to foundational food status is its long-chain omega-3 fats, docosahexaenoic acid, DHA, and icosapentaenoic acid, EPA, which are crazy important for cardiovascular health, neurological health, and immune health. But seafood has double to triple the nutrient density of most types of meats you get at the grocery store. And shellfish can have up to like 10 times the nutrient density of your more common meats. So fish and shellfish in general are great sources of protein, vitamin B1, vitamin B2, B3, B6, B9, B12, vitamin E, zinc, phosphorus, magnesium, iron, copper, potassium, and selenium. Oily cold water fish like salmon is also a great source of vitamin A and vitamin D, and fish from the ocean is also a great source of iodine. Canned fish with the bones, like canned salmon or canned sardines, is some of our most concentrated food sources of calcium, and shellfish can be a great source of trace minerals. There's lots of science showing that just 3 servings of seafood per week reduces risk of cardiovascular disease and neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's. So that's a great minimum target, but you can go up to fish every day, even fish for every meal. A serving is 4 ounces measured raw or 3 ounces measured cooked. That's a piece of fish about the same size as the palm of your hand.
Okay, Dr. Sarah, we made it to the last foundational food, which is one of my personal favorites, nuts and seeds.
And peanuts. It's worth noting that for all of these food categories, we use the culinary definitions of the foods rather than the botanical ones. So however you use that food in the kitchen, that's how it counts in terms of Nutrivore Foundational Food. So tomatoes are vegetables, strawberries are berries, and peanuts are nuts and seeds. Nuts, seeds, and peanuts are our most reliable food source of vitamin E, which 96.1% of Americans don't get enough of from their diets. But they're also great sources of fiber, heart-healthy fats like alpha-linolenic acid, linoleic acid, and oleic acid. They also are good sources of vitamin B1, biotin, folate, copper, magnesium, and manganese. And they're great sources of polyphenols and another class of phytonutrients called phytosterols, which are particularly good at helping to lower serum cholesterol. With nuts and seeds, we get huge health benefit with just 4 servings per week and up to about a serving per day. A serving for nuts, seeds, and peanuts is defined as 1 ounce. That's about a 1/4 cup for whole nuts, 3 tablespoons for chopped nuts or smaller seeds, and 2 tablespoons if we're talking about a nut or seed butter.
Wow, Dr. Sarah, thank you for taking us through all the Nutrivore Foundational Foods. This is a lot to keep track of, though, all the different foods and their serving sizes. Surely you have a tool for us to use.
Of course I do. So first of all, if you would just like these serving guidelines and some food lists of what counts and what category, you can get that as a free guide when you sign up for my free weekly newsletter. And if you would like a tool to keep track of your intake of these nutritionally distinct foods, then I've created something called the Nutrivore Weekly Serving Matrix. That's included in my book, Nutrivore, The Radical New Science for Getting the Nutrients You Need from the Foods You Eat, which also explains in more detail the value of each one of these food families. Or you can get the Nutrivore Weekly Serving Matrix as a digital product direct from my website, nutrivore.com.